Chapter 2 from the memory book. I reviewed the table of contents for you yesterday, and chapter 2 is, in the first place, association, and then also the peg, which is all about memory pegs. And memory pegs, if I recall this, are basically you put on the shoulder of the person's name you're trying to remember some visual image that helps you remember their name. And I use that to this day. Let's look at chapter 2 real quick. Okay, in the first place, association. So it's on page 21. This is a conversation between Harry Lorraine and Jerry Lucas. So they begin various lines with HL and JL. Can't you picture those ancient orators wandering around the streets of the city looking for other buildings to use as places? JL. And the search made them more memorable, not just better able to remember what they needed to. Eventually, they realized that any information that was already sequential could be used as loci or things to associate with other things. HL. So when a searcher came across something like the signs of the zodiac and realized here that he had 12 places, he had to learn them first. And much later, some people realized that parts of the Bible could be used as places. So they had to learn that first. JL. A case of knowledge begetting knowledge, wouldn't you say? And now we leave the conversation. All memory, whether trained or untrained, is based on association. But that's stating it too simply. You will be taught many systems of association in this book, but it goes much deeper than that. You see, when people say, I forgot, they didn't. Usually what really happened was that they didn't remember in the first place. That leads to my opinion that one of the mechanisms for memory and how it works is efficient and effective and good input and a good filing system. So how can you pull it out of your memory if you don't file it in a way that you can find it when you need it? So how can you forget something that you didn't remember originally? Turn that around and you have the solution to remembering. If you do remember something originally, how can you forget it? That brings you to forcing yourself to remember originally. How can you do this? The simple systems of association you'll learn here will do it for you automatically. One of the fundamentals of a trained memory is what we call original awareness. Anything of which you are originally aware cannot be forgotten. And applying our systems of association will force original awareness. Anything you wish to remember must first be observed. Using association will take care of that too. But how in the world do you associate something that's intangible or abstract? That question leads to another fundamental of trained memory. It is always easy to remember things that have meaning than it is to remember things that do not. You'll see as you get a bit deeper into our methods that nothing is abstract or intangible so far as the systems are concerned. You will learn how to make any intangible thing, any abstract piece of information, tangible and meaningful in your mind. Once you've mastered that simple technique, all remembering and therefore all learning will be easier for you for the rest of your life. That's great. We'd like to insist right here that virtually all learning is based on memory. Yeah, very true. As a matter of fact, I used to teach guitar, and one of my favorite things to tell my students was that it's good to be an older student of guitar. You know, a lot of my students, they were in high school, were embarrassed about the fact that they were just getting started learning guitar in high school, and it was a late start for them. Concerned that to be truly great, you had to start when you were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And my input to them, my exhortation to them, was that, well, as an older student, you're better at learning. You've had more experience at learning things, and therefore the learning takes less time. And I think that's true. I mean, yes, when you're younger, you've got a cleaner slate, and it's easier for things to stick because your mind's not as cluttered with information. But again, the other side of that coin is when you're older, you're more experienced at learning, therefore it goes faster. Kind of like what I'm doing now. And what I'm doing now is the way I'm motivating myself to read this book and others is by recording a video of it to make money from it, conceivably. And that gets me to read it. So whatever works, whatever gets you through the read, right? That brings you to forcing yourself to remember originally. How can you do this? The simple systems of association you'll learn here will do it for you automatically. One of the fundamentals of a trained memory is what we call original awareness. We'd like to insist right here that virtually all learning is based on memory. Educators don't like to admit it, but they know it's true. And any student knows that the more he remembers, the better grades he'll get from the teacher who likes to put down memorization. In the defense of memorization, I will say memorization has to occur first. Then you make the information your own. Then you regurgitate it as your own, a little more fully digested, as gross as that might sound. We believe that there are 3 basic learning skills. Number 1, the search for information. Number 2, remembering the information. And number 3, applying the information. The search is up to the educators and the sources of knowledge. The application is up to you. We'll take care of step 2, which was remembering the information. Let's begin with association. First of all, you should realize that you've used association all your life. The problem is that you've usually associated subconsciously without recognizing the association for what it is. Anything you clearly associated, even if subconsciously, is sure to have been easily remembered. But since you have no control over your subconscious, association has been a hit or miss kind of thing all your life. I would beg to differ. I think, now in the new millennium, we're beginning to have more control over our subconscious. We've learned more about how the subconscious works, and we're able to use it more to our advantage. We program our minds at night to think of solutions, that kind of thing. Here's a basic memory rule. You can remember any new piece of information if it is associated to something you already know or remember. While I use this stuff continually now, but this is where I got it, I do believe. Do you remember the lines of the music staff, the treble clef, E, G, B, D, and F? If your teacher ever told you to think of the sentence, every good boy does fine, then you do remember them. In fact, I wrote a book that uses that as every guitarist bears disciplined fingers. And the bass clef being great bassist disciplined fingers always. G, B, D, F, A for the bass clef. And the thing is, if you look at the bass clef and the treble clef run together and you've got middle C in the center, then it's all one contiguous list. Let's start with the bass clef. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, then B, middle C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. So alphabetical order from the bottom of the bass clef to the top of the treble clef as one continuous unit. In fact, I think I read somewhere that, Bach and even before him, Mozart, once upon a time, the staff had 11 lines, but it was too hard to read. So they split it into the 5-line bass clef and the 5-line treble clef with middle C in the middle, and then began using ledger lines. Ledger lines are hard to read. The 11 lines of the clef, which is the chewy caramel center of basically 2 octaves plus left hand and right hand, became a lot easier to read. Your teacher was following that basic memory rule, probably without realizing it. He or she was helping you to remember new and abstract information, the letters E, G, B, D, F, by associating them to something you already knew, or at least understood. The simple sentence, every good boy does fine, or deserves fun. Obviously it worked. Teachers in the early grades had been telling their students for years that it's easy to remember how to spell peace if you think of the phrase a piece of pie. Since most young students already know how to spell pie, associating that old knowledge to the new, the spelling of peace, P-I-E-C-E, solves the problem. Again, the basic rule has been followed. Very few people can easily remember the shape of Russia or Greece or any other country except Italy, that is. That's because most people have been told or have read that Italy is shaped like a boot. There's that rule again. The shape of a boot was the something already known, and the shape of Italy could not be forgotten once that association was made. These are common examples of association, subconscious or conscious. And so it goes. Medical students use mnemonics, a technique for improving their memory, to help themselves remember the cranial nerves. Other students picture homes on a Great Lake to help themselves remember that the 5 Great Lakes are Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior, H-O-M-E-S. Others picture a quartet being stabbed. Stab gives you the initial letters of soprano, alto, tenor, and bass to remember the 4 voices in a quartet. People have remembered that Mount Fujiyama is 12,365 feet high by associating it to the calendar, 12 months, 365 days in a year. Mount Fujiyama. The trouble with such examples is that they work only for those specific things. They're limited. The systems of trained memory you'll learn in this book are applicable to anything. They're limited only to the extent that your willingness to use them is limited. The point is this. If you know how to consciously associate anything you want to remember to something you already know, you'll have a trained memory. It's as simple as that. And you can learn to associate anything you like quickly and naturally. The trained memory systems you'll be taught in this book are not unnatural in any way. They merely systematize or patternize natural process. Many times during your life, you've heard or seen something that can cause you to snap your fingers and say, oh, that reminds me. And usually the thing that reminded you of something had nothing to do with what it reminded you of. Somewhere back in your mind, an absurd or random association has been made. That's true. Okay, so we've gotten through 4 pages, and I'm going to take a break for now. And it occurs to me, one of the things I'm doing by reading this now is exploring the essence of prose and writing so I can become my own author and write my own prose and writing, having examples. So this is serving a double purpose. So anyway, peach up, peach out. Talk to you later. See you soon.